A very good evening and welcome to AFC TV's Ingwe Fanzone show. Remember, this is how we do it each and every Thursday right here on AFC TV. I am excited to be here with you. Now, you're going to give me a minute. I think I left my volume on. Let's see. Anyway, I'm gonna deal with that later. Anyway, karibuni sana. I'm excited. This is how we do it each and every Thursday. And remember, if you want to be part of this discussion, we are going to be having a very interesting discussion today. The topic is going to be sports marketing and strategy. What is the importance of this? And the reason why I want us to talk about this is because as a club, we have been going through so much. How are we going to ensure that we are in the right track? Are we doing enough to market ourselves in this COVID-19 pandemic? How are we going to make sure that we are managing? Well, we'll be back after this short break, and we will be back with our guest, Yvonne Namai, who is a sports strategy and marketing officer, and she's currently working for CAF. Exciting, isn't it? Karibuni sana. And welcome back to Ingwe Fanzone. Remember, the only way you can be part of this interactive show is by making sure that you are following us on all our social media handle pages. On Twitter, it is at FC Leopards. On Instagram, it is at FC Leopards _SC. On Facebook, it is at FC Leopards. And on YouTube, it is FC Leopards SC, one word. And my guest is already here, Yvonne Namai. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much for making time to join us here on Ingwe Fanzone. You know, I am excited because first and foremost, we went to the same school, man.
I know. And we're now all in sports.
And we're now all in sports. I remember, you know, we were a bit naughty when we were in high school. When we went from Form 4, there was World Cup was going on. And yeah. I'll leave that for another day. But anyway, thank you very much
No high school
for making
stories.
time to. Okay, I'll do my best. I'll do my best. But thank you very much for making time to join us here on Ingwe Fanzone. And the reason why I wanted us to have this discussion is because earlier on, during the day, you did say that you have time to talk about sports strategy and sports marketing. That is a field that you are an expert in, and. First and foremost, you have at one point tried to help FC Leopards with sports marketing and sports strategy. How do you think we're doing so far?
It was a few years back, and I had the opportunity to work with the new. I think they're still the current leadership of AFC Leopards. It was focused on strategy and the importance of actually planning and articulating your plans and how it can help the club go forward. I had a session with them, which was very informative, actually, for my end and also for their end, and it was very good. Unfortunately, the way our clubs are set up, sometimes we do not have budgets for things like consultants like me. So I did what I could because also of the Ingwe part of the club, and of course its heritage. So and occasionally when I'm home, I actually make time. So in terms of performance, I was very impressed actually because some of the things we spoke about in the sessions that we had for strategy formulation were actually implemented. The thing about strategy is that you don't have to do everything at the same time. Also, because at the end of the day, you're a football club first, so always the football will have a priority. So when you have a strategy, when you have a direction that you've agreed on, then you take it chunks by chunks. So you implement it a little by a little, so that also you're not distracted from the core business, which will always remain football.
But let me ask you, do you think as local clubs we are doing enough to market ourselves, to attract sponsorships?
Um, we are doing enough because of the resources that we have. Also, you have to remember that some clubs out there that are doing well operate as businesses. They operate business
Yes.
entities that complement the football. So they have clearly separated the administration from the technical in terms of operations, and also in terms of budget allocation. So people have different
Yes.
priorities, and sometimes I always feel it's important to remind, especially our clubs in Kenya, that
Yes.
we shouldn't be in a rush. We have to remember all these clubs we're looking up to, it was just 20 years ago, or even less,
Yes.
actually 15 years ago, that they started to do some of these things, before
Yes.
the model of commercializing something like the Premier League. We just had people playing
Yes.
football,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
and these people had to find ways to get resources. So when clubs privatize or get into venture partnerships, it means that they have the capacity to handle it at that point. Right now, not many clubs are able to afford having a secretariat, meaning that the people
Yes.
who are elected in office have to dedicate some time for what is looking like voluntary work to get the club
Yes.
running. And we know so many club chairmen and club officials, elected officials, and also the funds who have always had to contribute from their own pocket to ensure that the club continues to run.
Yes.
So I would say don't panic, just plan. We can see that already clubs have set out their communication plans, especially on the digital space.
Yeah.
We can't find
Yes.
all of them on the digital space in terms of most of them don't have websites, but we can find lineups on match day. We can find scores.
Yes.
We
Yes.
can find scores updates. So I think it's a big deal. We need to appreciate that it takes also a lot for a club just to have
Yes.
somebody who tweets for them, somebody who updates their Facebook for them, somebody who there's some photographers who give their photos almost for free. So, with
Yes.
what
Yes.
we have in our environment, I think we are doing enough. And whenever I speak about strategy, then I let anyone who is listening to me to know that it's okay to take it small chunk by small chunk. You don't have to do everything. You can't be an Arsenal or a Man United overnight.
True. Wow, that's very encouraging. At least we know we're doing something right. But that brings me to my next question. Let's talk about the impact of social media platforms and how it is the impact it has on marketing, especially for us as a team. As you said, there are teams out there that don't have websites, that don't have, someone who can help them tweet. But how important is it right now to ensure that we are taking social media to the next level?
I think first of all, it's very prudent to recognize that social media, of all other forms of marketing, digital marketing can be tracked. So it means that you can get analytics that you can actually share with your partner in terms of engagement and eyeballs,
Yes.
which sometimes especially for TV and radio, is usually an estimate in terms of how many eyeballs. But social media is trackable, so it becomes the most
Yes.
attractive thing to use right now, especially because we don't have
Yes.
funds anymore, and especially because everyone is relying on digital media to get their updates since they can't go to the stadiums. So I think that for clubs, I really love the banter that goes on match day, and that is a
Yes.
start, because the moment you focus on being too technical on the sport, then you lose the majority of people, because you have to remember that sports is more entertainment than actually technical to majority of the people who spend their money on sport. They get there to be entertained. That's why gossip
Yes.
about the players is always getting a lot of traction. So people
Yes.
love
Yes.
hearing about people, and people love banter. So I
Yeah.
think right now we are doing enough. It would be prudent, though, for for there to be some consistency, because sometimes it's very easy to tell that somebody has parted ways with the club, especially the people who handle the social media. We've had embarrassing
Yes.
situations where a club couldn't activate and they were on a tour, just because somebody had their social media handle. So I think what clubs need to focus on is to look at the people around them, the people who already pay attention to them, and
Yes.
recognize and tap into that passion that they have by sharing the plans that they have for the club. Because somebody who's already passionate about your club will make time to actually help you achieve
Yes.
your plan. If we start with Ingwe Fanzone, in another
Yes.
country, this would be somebody else's property, you know and
Yes.
it would
Yes.
cost a lot of money, and I would
Yes.
charge you to have me on it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's a
Yes.
whole broadcast model, and that's how they make money. Anything that is going to use content, the likeness, the image and likeness of the club has to be paid for
Yes.
in clubs that run as businesses. So we should be proud that we're doing just enough. Yes, Ingwe opened a store and we have not sold 1,000 shirts in 1 month like we wanted to, but we started, we opened the store, you know and
Yes.
so that you
Yes.
also feel we are doing something right, we have
Yes.
clubs that have the funding, and they came and they did
Yes.
everything textbook according to the business clubs. Who follows them?
No one.
Who follows them?
Okay.
You have to work with the people already interested in the club, because they know how to talk to your people. So if you have a super fan in Gladys, you don't go picking some famous, socialite or media personality to
Yes.
come and do Ingwe fan zone because you're getting traction. No. Gladys is in those chat rooms. She does the banter every day, even when it's on match day, whether she loses or she wins, she speaks.
Yes.
So all these people who actually care about the club can identify with her. So those textbook practices that we think things should be done that way were also created by human beings. So we have to be realistic within the situation that we have right now. Within the funds, we have people who can do graphic design. I mean,
Yes.
look at this
Yes.
show. you know so
Yes.
we need to embrace that. We do not have pots of money, we do not have sponsors knocking at our doors wanting to be with us, but we have funds who contribute whatever they have to support the club. That's why we always do Harambes. So we can also
Yes.
tap something different, just not the money.
Now it's very interesting because you've said something that has really caught my attention. There's like in the past 6 months, FC Leopards across all platforms has had over 10 million impressions. And this is inclusive of like Facebook, Twitter, Fanzone, whether we do Match Day Center. Let's talk about how important it is uh, to use sports marketing and fan engagement. Because as you've said, it's the fans who bring us this kind of engagements. Right now, we want to do something bigger, something better. How do we put the two together?
Sports marketing is fan engagement. Sports rights holders, any content they create, any property that they create it with the fan in mind. The ultimate
Yes,
goal is to get this fund to spend more so that I get more money from sponsors. So sports marketing is fan engagement because it is to them that you're speaking to. So you have to meet them at their point of need. You don't wait for them to
yes.
come to you.
Okay. So how do we make money out of these numbers? Because I mean, man, we don't stay like this forever. We want to make some money. How do we ensure that these numbers are translating to money that can help the club and help, you know, put us out there?
First of all, your sponsor should already know all these numbers, and the
Yes.
discussions that you should be having with them is to have integrated marketing communications, because we are moving away from the edge where sponsors just advertise using their sponsorship. Sponsors
Yes.
need to tell a story using their sponsorship. that now we call
Yes.
it partnership or sponsorship marketing, where it means that
Mm-hmm.
as a business who is sponsoring a society, which our clubs still mostly run as societies, I have to
Yes.
be cognizant of the needs of the club and how I can meet my business objectives within my sponsorship. So one thing about sports marketing is that it is the most attractive form of marketing because marketing in itself, in essence, is all about trying to get somebody's attention. So that's why we do va va voom on the adverts, so we try and cause a disruption enough to be noticed. Sports marketing already gives us the attention, and what we have to do is to stay relevant within that space. So when partners take up shirt sponsorship or any type
Yes.
of sponsorship, then they should be ready to remain relevant within the sports industry. So when Fanzone is happening, it
Yes.
takes much more than just putting your name within the show. It takes so much more. How do we curate or rather create banter that pushes the products of our sponsor? So, as a club,
Yes.
also, you can find ways to make your sponsor have a return on investment. Like, for instance, we have one of the key KPIs of sponsorship is to convert the
Yes.
people you're sponsoring into your brand ambassadors, your social ambassadors.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
important because ultimately, word of mouth still remains the strongest form of marketing. So you want to sponsor a club and players talk well about you. That is why the stories of delayed salaries or non-payment of salaries are usually hurting to a brand, because anybody
Yes.
who ever associated with the club is now associated with that mess. So the same way the
Wow.
negative PR affects the business, then the positive PR should also be the same, because these brands have actually internal resources to create marketing communication. So how do they create
Yes.
communication that is relevant
Communication.
to the Ingwe fund so that the 10 million tractions can also pop up with their name?
Yes.
So it has to be very targeted. So that, because right now we have some free tools like Google Analytics that you can actually, track how your brand is being spoken about, and it's free.
Yes.
So when
Yes.
you do SEO, search engine optimization, then it means that anytime you type in your brand name and try and get the
Yes.
analytics, then you will understand where it's spoken about the most. So
But
Ingwe
yes.
having
Yes.
10 million impressions and their sponsors not getting any association, what we call the ripple effect, then it becomes
Yes.
useless to the sponsor, because eyeballs are great, but engagement is
Yes.
even better,
Is
and
low.
sales is the best. If everyone watching Ingwe Fanzone can actually be able to to consume the partners' brands, that's it. Then you have made yourself relevant within that space. So even if you don't advertise on TV, you have people who will always talk about you. So they will create that necessary noise for you, and you get the much needed marketing KPI of brand awareness and top of mind, because there's no need of sponsoring football, and whenever football in Kenya is looked up, your name is not synonymous to it. It becomes useless. So those numbers just
Wow.
become pretty. But you have to follow it up. You have to back it up with content that is relevant within the English space, and all of you can actually get value. Sometimes, because clubs do not have in-house, like graphics team and production team,
Yes. Yes.
they
Yes.
can
Yeah.
propose to the sponsors to actually take this up and make it work, within the space.
Yes. Wow, that's very interesting because now that's a challenge to us. Even as much as we're handling the social media handle pages, we need to make sure that we're, doing it in the proper way, in a way that is giving us light, giving the sponsors light, and also in a way that is going to attract more sponsorship. And that brings me to my next question, Yvonne. CAF has been immensely aggressive on the online space. What lessons should we pick from them? I mean, if you look at South Africa, North Africa, and Tanzania, they also seem to be doing very, very well. What is it that they're doing correct, and what is it that can we borrow from them and probably use in our own journey?
Um, I think because of some of the policies we have at work, I cannot speak directly on behalf of CAF, but I'm going to mention that we have it in us in Africa. We have African examples of how clubs have maximized the digital space enough for us here in Kenya to actually implement those strategies. So sometimes we look so far, you know,
Yes.
sometimes we look so
Yes.
far. You mentioned a golden number, which is 10 million. It is an
Yes.
African club that has over 10 million members, paying members. It
Wow.
is an African club. It is an African club that has the highest number of trophies in the world. It is an African club. So we don't
Okay.
need to look that far. I like that you've zoned everything out, but of course, due to my duties at CAF, I cannot pick out.
Yes.
But I can
Okay.
tell you for free that we don't need to look so far. We have so much examples, and they're right here at home with strategies that are not as expensive, as one would imagine.
So what would be your advice for us? You said let's start small. We're starting small. But let me ask this question, and this is going to be probably in line with the government. And is the government also doing enough to help, uh, like, make our sports more visible, or should we do it ourselves?
That's very interesting because it's one of the things that I just mentioned before I got online for the show, and I mentioned to someone that unfortunately the situation, especially for us, is that lack of government support. So one thing
Yes.
that you have to realize is that for you to go professional is very expensive. And when we try and look and emulate some of these people who have done it better, so allow me to make reference again to the English Premier League.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
notice, all the teams are named after cities. Yes or no?
Yes. Sure.
There is a
Yes.
huge involvement that and improvement that the government brings into getting a club running, whether it is the county government or the national government. So we have to
Yes.
remember that they're the ones who create policies. We have countries in Africa where governments have actually created policies that encourage investment in sports. They have
Yes.
rewritten their financial policies to actually allow for more investors and make it attractive for investors to actually invest in sports. So government still remains sort of the weakest link, because when you have a government
Wow.
that is not cognizant of especially the economic impact of sports, then you're in trouble, which is where we are now. If you allow me to mention a few years back,
Yes.
when we had our longest serving president, yeah, we
Yes.
had
Yes.
very funny stories of him even switching off the lights so that we can win a game. Yes,
Yeah.
he attended our
Yes.
games. Yeah, he supported us. Why? Because he realized that for every one player who is on the pitch, there are around five people who depend on that one player being on the pitch. So he used to be very generous. So
Wow.
we cannot ignore the impact that a government has, especially a government that understands the economic impacts that sport can have.
And that's very interesting because we recently had the rally in Kenya. I think they saw the numbers. Do you think that it is up to us to push for more events to happen back at home, and probably hopefully hope that it benefits us? The reason why I'm asking this is because we were supposed to hold the Sekafa women's tournament, but it got postponed. What impact does that kind of publicity do for our sports market? Because if you have an event and you can't honor it or you postpone it, what does it do for the market, the sporting market in a country?
It has the biggest and the most important impact. The ultimate goal of marketing sports is to have as many people as possible participate and follow the sport.
Yes.
So when you host international events or even a regional or continental events, there's that one kid who's going to watch it on TV. and say that I want to play football when I grow up. Why is this
Yes.
important? Because that player on the field will encourage his brother, his mother, his father, or rather his family to come to the field. That fills our stadiums. Why do we care
Yes.
about having more fans? Because it's that kid who will have a phone when they are 12 years old and they're going to be throwing banter as if they know everything about the club and they were just born the other day. You
Yes.
get? So it is
Yes.
very, very important. And of course, arguably, we can argue that that money could have been used better, but
Yes.
we need to look at the positive side. Many people for many years attended the safari rally. Many of them did not know some of the nitty gritties. I know what was
Yes.
going around was looked like a party, but if you realize the
Yes.
communication that the actual channels that were hosting had, they were very informative, very
Very, very
informative.
informative.
So you
Yes.
learn something new almost every day because there's so
Every
many numbers,
day.
especially in the rally. But when it is hosted in your country, I wasn't home, but I followed everything, everything. I cannot tell you how many cars there were, but I was glued to
Yeah.
my screen because there was that sense of pride in having my country host a global event. So it means that I can influence my children to take up sport.
Yes.
That's what we
Wow.
need.
I have
So the
I
mindset
have
is
to
very important.
I have to ask you this. The other day, when the Kenya Lionesses, the basketball team, was playing, not very many people were interested in them until after we won. When our beach volleyball team actually got their slot
The
to
Olympics.
take
Yeah.
part in the Olympics, not very many people knew about it. I mean, we had to retweet and make noise about it, and then I think it's still a challenge. Let's talk about other sports, and specifically, let's talk about rugby, basketball, just other sports in general, and not football alone. What can they do? Because these are sports that not very many people might have interest in them. Probably they're not like you and I, who just, we can watch basketball, we can watch volleyball, we can watch whatever it is. But how do we make sure that we help them get that social media presence going? Yvonne, can you hear me? Well, I seem to have lost Yvonne there, but when she comes back, of course, we'll be. Well, I think we've lost Yvonne for a little bit, but a very insightful topic that has been sports strategy and marketing, and are we doing enough as a club? Well, it seems we are on the right path when it comes to social media. It looks like tumeanza vizuri. Now you guys have been writing comments na nataka kusoma zingine hapa before, of course, I tell you what happened during the week. Okay, Vincent Wanda says, good evening, Gladys. As a team, let's utilize our social media. Most of the time, they are only active during match day and Fanzone. Let's have daily activities like player profiles, players' lives, social media. Like, what happens with the teams like Manchester United and Arsenal. If we can utilize this space, then we can be a sustainable club, because the internet is the future. Well, thank you very much, Vincent Wanda. Moses Chelsea Okolo says, ours forever. Thank you very much. Afande, naona umesema uko ndani, karibu sana, asanteni sana. Hustler TV Kenya says, Kenyan local clubs are not yet on the best level in terms of lineup marketing. They need to pull up. Very well. Thank you very much. I see Joe Murule is here. Someone is saying, I believe FC, this is Vincent Wanda. Oh, I believe FC is the first club in the country right now with a working YouTube channel. Kudos for that. We can still do more that can attract more viewers and also make it easy for YouTube to recommend the channel. Well, we'll be doing that. Thank you very, very much, Vincent. Tony Wangela naona uko ndani ya nyumba. Yvonne Buluma, good evening, my dear. Frank Hamba says, I have been looking for a jersey since the beginning of the season. It's impossible to get one. Well, unfortunately, Frank, the jerseys are out of stock, but since the season is coming to an end, we are going to make sure that we get the message across to make sure that we have enough jerseys coming in to the new season. The sponsor will leave because of the performance. Well, we'll see about that. John Ocheng says he's watching from Nairobi, Kabiria. Thank you very much. Felix, karibu sana. Frank, you're saying you have very informative insights. Thank you very much. Ingwe needs money. With the present sponsor, the team can still have a 30 plus budget deficit. Okay, thank you very much, Okech. Football rarely attracts sponsors in Kenya. What can we do differently to bring more corporate sponsors on board? Well, I'll be asking that question to Yvonne. Kevin Dong, thank you very much, watching as usual. I like the way this lady is far much eloquent, relaxed, focused, and very particular in whatever she is highlighting. Kudos to her. Thank you very much. Kelvin, I'll pass the message to her. Ajanga, Alex, locked from Kaile, thank you very much. Now, because Gay says we need to borrow a leaf from South African Book of Football Business. Ingwe can partner with top clubs and look at what they are doing different. Well, thank you very much. Well, guys, I am absolutely excited that you guys have been part of this very insightful discussion, and it's a very important discussion that we need to have because we need to know what we are doing right and wrong as a club. Are we doing enough to market FC Leopards? Are we doing enough to attract sponsors? Well, it seems like we are on the right track. Now, as it stands, we look like we have the weak link being the government. The government needs to do much, much more for sports in Kenya. Well, the ball again is in their court, and we're going to be pushing this kinds of discussion right here on Ingwe Fanzone, right here on FCTV. Why? Because we need to understand the importance of sports, and we need to understand how you, the fan, is the biggest shareholder and the biggest stakeholder of this beautiful sport that we like. Now, I'm going to read the last comment from Zaxo, where it says long-term integrity and honesty within club management can bring in short and long-term sponsors. Well, thank you very much, Zax Waweru. Now, this is just a reminder, Match Day Center is back. Yes, we heard your cry, and we will be giving you Match Day Center again. It's been a bit tricky, you know, because most of the games were very squeezed and some of them were during the week. So Match Day Center is back, and we will be letting you know exactly how the games are going. For those of you who are unable to catch our matches because probably you'll be at work, if that is there during the week, remember to follow us on all our social media handle and pages, and we will be giving you minute by minute updates of how our games are going on. So on Twitter it is at FC Leopards. Tufikisha 100k watu wangu. I believe we can get it to 100k pale Twitter at FC Leopards. On Facebook pia tunaweza fikisha 100k people. Man, tuko wengi, let's do this. And then on Instagram it is at FC Leopards _SC. And then YouTube, man, we need you guys to like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, FC Leopards SC, one word. It's very important if you want to get any of these shows to be part of that YouTube family. As usual, it is always a pleasure to be hosting this show. As you've heard, we are here because of you, the fans. To the able team that makes this very, very possible, thank you very much. So, as usual, let's see you next week on Thursday. It is good night and God bless you.